going on, everybody? It is a Rollerblade USA, obviously. We here on a Sunday. I always like coming down to the Washington D.C. downtown area on Sundays because generally parking's free in a lot of areas, and on top of that, it's just not as crowded because people aren't working. So it makes for a beautiful ride. And today, on this Rollerblade USA podcast, what we're going to talk about is the Supreme Court. We're going to talk legal. Oh boy, have I been thinking about this issue. So we're actually heading down to the Supreme Court building, which is east of the Capitol. I've passed through, been there before, but never really took the time to hang out or rollerblade there. So we'll see if we can find it. And along the way, we will talk about its composition and how to evolve the Supreme Court, basically. So, I mean, you can't help but start the conversation talking about what has happened over the last few decades. This is a more recent thing since social media, okay? The conservative or liberal justice, the right or left justice, that used to be taboo. That used to be something we never said because it was too disrespectful of the position as a judge. Like, basically, when you read the law objectively and you provide what is supposed to be as objective a human representation of whatever issue it is that you are going over, when you're supposed to do that, there should not be what we would consider to be a political tint or a subjective assessment that you make on things that has to pass a litmus test that's consistent with your political, religious, or whatever views that one wouldn't necessarily consider to be objective. So all that blah blah basically means judges used to be judges. It didn't matter if they were Republican or Democrat. You could count on them when it came to serious issues to do the right thing and not the biased thing. Okay? Well, that's the way we used to think of things. Now, everywhere in the media, everybody, it is unbelievable how it's saying, oh, the conservative Supreme Court or the conservative majority or the liberal justices or the progressive justices, the ones that dissented, everything is always along those lines. And that's a problem. It's a problem, Capitol. It's a problem, Congress. How is it that so many issues are becoming pack mentality responses where one side says it has to be this way and the other side say it has to be the other on things that apparently shouldn't have to that should have more of a review where there can be a consensus made, right? And that's the whole point of having the justices, is that they do a good enough job of reviewing major issues that they can help solve them and come to a conclusion that we're all going to back and we're all going to believe is true. So, all right. So that being said, so now you've got a conservative and you've got a liberal, whatever going on. We got a problem. Well, first of all, the conservative side essentially stole one or two justices, however you want to calculate it, with the logic about nominating or not nominating somebody, withholding Merrick Garland from, being having a hearing and having a vote, so that they waited until Trump stole the next election so that they could appoint more conservative justices. So there's that. Now, when it comes to that, you'd say, all right, well, because the conservative side got freebies, you need to add justices to even it out. And if you add two and appoint two what would be called liberal justices, then you'd have 6-5 majority liberal, I believe, or whatever. Now, I think what you should do is you should actually add one, okay? Because one was clearly stolen any way you look at it. There's no way to massage the logic that Mitch McConnell came up with, which was, we can't hold a vote on a Supreme Court justice when the president may be going out within the next few months. Okay, well, if that's your logic, then you can't nominate Amy Coney Barrett, because that happened right before the election and Trump was removed. So, It was one or the other. They definitely stole at least one justice, and maybe two, arguably. So, point is, when you add one, then all of a sudden you end up with 5-5, okay? First of all, base 10 is awesome. I love that. 10 justices makes more sense. So then, what do you do when you've got 5-5 all the time, right? On all these issues that are supposedly so pivotal, that are driving apart the parties and making a, conservative always goes one way, liberal always goes the other, whatever. So what do you do here? Well, I got a solution to this. It involves evolving the legal system to meet the needs of the current public nowadays, here in 2022 and going forward, and also to incorporate the technology of today, which did not exist in the 1700s, 1800s, and even 1900s, which is you got a phone, which everybody does, but you can't even get into a sporting event without a smartphone. Everybody's got one of voting age. Even homeless people, they got them. So that phone number identifies you. You got a social security number as well, most of the time. Those two things can be the basis for you to social media vote on cases. Like, here's what I'm getting at. Let's say that because it's a new world and we all have our own strong opinions and want to be heard, and we want our vote to matter as well, right? There's a lot of issues about voting rights and whether or not things are equitable in the Congress, right? Like, if you're drawing districts in a weird way, you're not truly representing the number of people properly and their views associated. So those are huge issues. Well, why can't we all vote on everything? Every one of these cases that would go 5-5 in the Supreme Court would come up to the, public database of issues that you can vote on. Like, you'd actually have a say if the question is, how do you feel about abortion? Do you put a week on it? Do you think it should always be illegal, legal, whatever? You'd have the ability to answer that. And if you did, I didn't want to hit that dog. If you answered that, all of a sudden you keep a database of all those answers, and everybody gets one answer, one vote, because you're one person, and all those votes get tallied up, and there's a public database where you can go view your account, your historical answers, all the questions that you could potentially answer. You'd be able to get on a system like that. You'd be able to answer questions about legislation that's being voted on in Congress. You would be able to have your voice heard through the receiving of the response that you make when asked the questions that you care so deeply about. And everybody, am I losing a wheel? What the heck happened? Yeah, I got a leaf in there. Let's get that out of there. Otherwise we're gonna have sound effects. It's a weird sound. I'll stop eventually when I hit something. Anyway, so I get rid of that. No, later. So this is very doable. You start with one justice to create the problem of what do we do when we break a tie, and the answer to what we do when we break a tie is we find a new way to get the right answer and to do what's better for all of us. Because I'm in favor of artificial intelligence actually monitoring cases and monitoring judges and pointing out where things are very inconsistent with established logic and precedent, and to look for bias. Because if you see what's going on down in Florida with Eileen Cannon, here's a judge that is, if there's any more evidence that she is in cahoots with whatever Trump wants to do because she was especially appointed and she is unqualified, all of the above, like he's taking advantage of someone and pushing her around, and she's a district judge. That kind of person cannot stay as a district judge, because if we allow people to place their friends in those positions and have them do personal favors for them all the time and oversee all their lawsuits, then the human being's impact in the justice system is all of a sudden completely distorted, and the eyes of justice are no longer blind. They are, what's here? Guardian of something. Is this Supreme Court? We might even be here. Where's the Capitol? Probably getting close. The point is the justice system is all of a sudden in desperate need of reform here in this new year of new age of information, right? Because we can no longer have people that have lifetime sentence appointments, which that is also wrong. They shouldn't have lifetime appointments anymore. People live way too long now. Like they should have 25-year appointments or something, because the whole reason of having a lifetime appointment is supposedly that you're not going to be, you're not going to be as susceptible to being bribed and stuff like that because your job is not at risk. You can't be removed, right? Well, all that's happened is that people who want to place corrupt people in those positions have done everything they can to get them appointed and confirmed, and now they're free to do whatever forever. So the crime is ongoing as long as that person lives and serves. And that's unacceptable. It doesn't make any sense. We all have lifetimes. Why should one or two justices with outdated views that are trying to, that their wives are helping to try to overthrow the government, like why should we allow those people to make decisions for life about what we do? That's an old way of thinking. It's not correct, and just we need to change it. It's time to change it. And I don't know if we found the Supreme Court or not, but actually I think we did. That was second half. I think we just passed it. I think we passed it, and I didn't even realize it because they don't advertise it all that much for reasons that are obvious right now. I don't know if we passed it or not. We'll figure it out later on the video. But I wanted to talk about this because it's extremely important, and the only way we're going to work through these issues and and make the world better and just do what we're supposed to do as America, to lead and do right. The only way we're going to do that is if we have equitable representation and sense is made. If you can't reason with someone, this looks like Supreme Court, right? It's like something. If you can't reason with someone, what's the point of trying to solve the problem with them, right? We gotta be inclusive and solve problems with everybody. Justice under law. I would guess this is the Supreme Court. So we're here. Let's make it better. So that's what we do. Rollerblade USA.